So, not everyone, but most people need to agree on this. And then there's a much smaller set, like for instance, if you are, like we have in Belgium, a fashion museum, you want to agree on the size of the dress and what kind of colors and materials that were used, but this is very specific knowledge that you might not want to have everyone's agreement on. And here this layered agreement is what I talked about earlier about this diversity. Like all collections have unique properties, and sometimes they're so unique that not everyone has to read them. Yes, we all need to have the author and the title of the work, but something that's very specific to certain kind of collections. Others might not really have an opinion about that, so let's not evolve at the speed of the slowest. Let's have this layered agreement in which we all take on the. So, and this is more of an open question than me saying what it should be. Just as a concept, we have to think about what are the rules we all need to agree on, what are the rules that certain subsets will need to agree on. We need to talk about vocabularies, ontologies, obviously. Also need to talk about data shapes. And this is a bit of a recent evolution more in the community. Like earlier, we were mostly talking about ontologies, but shapes are also saying how this ontology should be used. Like if you publish this piece of data, make sure it has a title, it has an author, and if it's a piece of clothing, it has a size, and has materials. And then these things were a bit more open, I would say, in the past, whereas there is also some benefit to having shapes at some points, at some stages. And also interfaces, of course. We didn't talk about APIs yet, but then it's also a matter of how you publish the data. Do you just publish them as one specific term? Do you have a Sparkle endpoint? Do you have other ways in which you access the collection? I'm talking here about interfaces, APIs for machines, but also for people. So these are all things we need to think about. And of course, we don't need to start from scratch here. There's lots of lessons learned from the aggregation of hundreds of data sets already. They're very useful to inform the discussion. So there's lots of inputs that we can use and lots of expertise that we can use. Another part, of course, is the complexity. Because centralization has quite some complexity benefits. Like it's simple. Just agreeing on the same models, bringing everything in one place is very simple, but it comes at the cost of losing diversity and losing control. So let's be honest, also have a look at the additional complexity that comes from thinking this way. And again, the left-hand side shows how we build applications today, right? So if we aggregate, then you know exactly the data model, you know what data will be present, so you can build applications in a very straight way. Like there's a back-end and application, and it just works seamlessly together, often written by the same team. So that's the one thing we should say about centralized applications, they're very well aligned. But on the other hand, it's also quite easy because, I mean, they just build the same team, they're the same thing. If we decentralize, data will be in different places and different applications will be using the same data. So we get a much more complex ecosystem, of course. So we need to think about interoperability, but also about technical solutions on how to pull this off. And for instance, with the research team that I have at Ghent University, these are questions that we think about. Like, if indeed data is not going to be in one place, but in different places, how can it still scale? How can it be easy to develop applications? So, the good thing is, decentralization has a couple of interesting immediate benefits regarding social truth, but it also creates long-term challenges. And this is why we already have to start thinking today about what will happen in the future if indeed we start doing things differently. So it's important that we also have the foundational research to prepare for these kind of things. And of course, something else to think about is the role that aggregators still will get in the network. Because, as I said before, in the worst case, take a Facebook example, if I have 1,000 friends, you need to go to 1,000 places. If I have 1,000 collections and I do a search, I need to go to 1,000 collections. Of course, this will not scale. So just for technical reasons alone, we will need aggregators, indexes, signposting, and so on, to make sure that just the whole thing works fast enough. So I'm not saying get rid of it, no. Quite the contrary, we will need a lot of middle-layer infrastructure if we want everyone to keep their social true. So these are technical stories that will also be very important and that we need to think about. But of course, it's not all technology. In fact, it's probably more a social problem than a technological problem, and we need to shift our mindset. So we need to evolve from having the one data set to having many different sources of truth, each for a different thing. We need to evolve from one thing just being the true source, of it just being a station in a much more complex ecosystem. And also need to evolve from a way to think about this is the one platform where we get everything to know. This player is offering a service to the network. For instance, right now, let's say interlinking. Interlinking happens on a platform, so send everything to the platform, that platform will interlink. That's the old way of thinking about it. In a new way, there's a network of data, and interlinking is a service offered to the network, and the benefits should spread out to the network. So these are all different ways in which we need to think about technology, about collections, about services, in order to make this a healthy ecosystem. That brings me to the final part here, which is about what kind of network will we create. And these are a couple of very simple diagrams, actually, that to me really illustrates where I think that things should be going. So what we have right now is we have an ecosystem that's very aggregator-centric. So a lot of it is focused on how can we get data to the one place. And notice in particular that the arrows go in one direction. They go from the central hub, they go from the individual players to the central hub. The first step there is looking into a bidirectional relationship. Like the enhancements that happen in the aggregator, can we get them back? So getting those data flows in multiple directions is very interesting. But if we have this bidirectional information flow, we can also move the source of truth, right? So instead of having the aggregator as the one source of truth, let's move it again to the individual collections, because they have the most diversity, they know the data that they produce. And if we do that, actually, we don't need to depend on a single aggregator. There can be multiple services there. There can be multiple indices working there. There can be multiple site posting places, multiple portals. So we don't need the one aggregator anymore. We can have multiple in a network. And as we evolve to such a system, actually, they don't even need to be very visible anymore. They're still there. The middle layer is very important to make things run, but they're in essence facilitators between individual collections. And what they can do is actually help create this mesh network, and the importance of interlinking. So seeing those aggregators, those service providers in the network as facilitators for linking between collections is ultimately what I want to get from. Right? So yes, they're there and they play a role, but it is really about the source of truth being in connection with each other and then going about that. So we've talked about the kind of tensions that arise when you think about centralization versus decentralization versus taking control or giving it away. And it's not a black and white question, obviously. We've talked about the technology and the shift that we'll need, like instead of going from one source, think about multiple sources, and each having their own source of truth. And finally, we had a discussion about what roles and responsibilities, like in such a network, there's going to be different players that play different roles. So, very simply said, for me, what we're seeing often in cultural heritage is very strong question of identity. Like this is the aggregator for all those collections, and this is the collection. But I think it's more a question of role, right? Because right now, a lot of roles are being put on a single aggregator, like their indices, their portals, they do interlinking, they do quality and so on, whereas if you think in a more network way, all of these roles can be taken up by multiple parties, by different parties, and data doesn't flow just in one direction, it can flow in multiple directions. So, in short, this is how I see decentralization for cultural heritage. It's not about the one place where you put everything, it's about all of us being free to do what we want, but of course, we have to find the minimal set of rules for working together, otherwise we would just bump into each other, and that would be it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruben. I think we have time for a few questions, because Einstein is at 1 o'clock. Yes, it's 1 o'clock. So we have 20 minutes. If you want to share some questions.
Yeah, probably I can voice the position of those. Say, how can you really do that once there are so many stakeholders that have such a strong position and be addictive ways of putting all the users there and making them not worry about anything concerning their own journey. It's not more social property issue, which is that maybe probably the main issue is okay, so yeah. Yeah, okay.
Possiamo anticipare la sessione del pomeriggio, per fare in modo che si sentano le domande. Io posso anche tradurle in italiano, così
Other questions? Yes.
translate just so they can hear and then do it in Italian. Se capisco bene, la domanda di Aldo è la tipico dubbio che probabilmente viene a molti è vabbè, ma come si fa a realizzare una cosa del genere quando ci sono questi grandi player che hanno in qualche modo creato una specie di dipendenza dall'uso anche dal confluire dei nostri dati come i vari social network, cioè come si fa? Quindi è una domanda più a livello sociale, cognitivo.
Yeah, so ultimately, for me, it comes, and let's talk specifically about cultural heritage, it comes down to the experience that you want to deliver and also the costs that you want to incur for that. In the sense that, and I'll not just purely talk Europeana, so as we all know, Europeana has been a big project. A lot of effort has flown into it. Some of it resulted in benefits for others, some of it might be a bit more questionable, and Europeana realizes that, by the way. So I think we all know that the direction that we've been heading in so far, we've reached our limits there, right? Europeana is not going to get better by just investing twice as much money in it, right? So if we want to look at better experiences and a better connection, better interlinking, we need to start exploring different ways. So what I'm saying is that we have, in my opinion, reached peak or almost peak of what we can do with the current model. And the current model being one in which individual collections are not sufficiently empowered. So I'm not saying there is no value in that. There's been a lot of value in that. What I'm saying is that we've gotten all the benefits almost that we can get out of that model. So if we want to improve the experience, both for the people using the data, the people producing the data, we have to look at different models. And in terms of cost efficiency, it's the same thing. I expect it to be much more beneficial to invest in those ways that benefit the collection and the people, rather than trying to change something where our peak has already been reached, if that makes sense.
Can I ask you your experience? I know that you are experimenting solid in Belgium with an equivalent of our Italian digital agency, that by the way I know that. And I know that you are experimenting them with the personal data of citizens, right? So in the public administration sector. So can you tell us something more about that?
Very excited about this question. We should talk more about that. But so indeed, now.
Sentito bene, Giorgio. Allora, la domanda era, lei sa che, allora, sappiamo che Solid è in fase di sperimentazione in Belgio per i dati della pubblica amministrazione, in particolare per i dati dei cittadini. Allora chiedeva di avere maggiori informazioni se poteva lavorare un po' su questo.
Yes, so now we're leaving the domain of cultural heritage, but it's very good because it helps us think about the concepts. So, if you're a citizen, you see the government as being just one block, like, and simply said data in, data out, right? So you send data to them and then you get something back. However, that's not how it works in practice. A government consists of multiple agencies, quite a lot of them. And what happens a lot is the same thing I talked about in the beginning. They move data around all the time. So suppose if I change address, in theory, the once only principle means that I should just tell them once and then it works. This is not how it goes in practice. In practice, my home address is stored in easily 20, 30, 40 different places, and they can be inconsistent with themselves. So this also pertains to your question already, like how do we get this rolling? It's very simple. The Flemish government is losing a lot of money on data that's being stored in duplicates. Just for storage alone, you lose just storing it 20, 30 times. All the overheads you get of people doing that, synchronization doesn't happen, and so on. And in the end, the result you get out of it is suboptimal because there's going to be inconsistencies. And we just talked about address here, imagine all the rest. So, another key problem there is what I call the data train. Is that when I change address, then the train stops. Yeah? So, my request starts moving from A to C, and A to B to C to D to E, and so on. And then the problem is, of course, because it's personal data, that some of those agencies don't have the same permissions as the others. So a lot of battles are being fought internally to, yeah, can you see this piece of data, and so on. So moving data around is a pain, and today all IT and governments, I'm exaggerating a bit, is focused on how can we move data more easily. But still, the best thing you can do is make the train go at the speed of a slower station, because the train has to pass everywhere. But so what we're saying, well, if you don't move data, other citizens have their own data space, and their address is stored in there. If agency A, B, C, D, E want to access it, they go to the one location. So it's a similar principle. It's about the source of truth. Like if you get it from one place, we stop moving data around, we save costs, and we give a better service. So it's a no-brainer. And this is something that people sometimes forget. They think that it's a personal data, it's a privacy story, but privacy is very one-sided. It's a story that benefits the organization because they have easier processes, and it benefits the person because they have a better experience. So, simply said, we try to stop moving data around and just keep it in one place.
Continuiamo after lunch, continuiamo, quindi tenetevi le domande, non ve le dimenticate, vuoi che no, facciamo così?
Basta che si presentano magari
quindi subito perché il pranzo è pronto, quindi possiamo andare, poi dopo continueremo la sessione, magari sì, quando fate una domanda presentate, perché Ruben non conosce giustamente tutti e anche gli altri sanno chi sta facendo la domanda. E poi non so se volete che adesso mi devo scordare, però no, magari dopo anche alla fine delle risposte. Sì, però magari vabbè, quindi magari dopo lo facciamo la traduzione. Grazie.